Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Thursday. Hey, baby, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, I'm excited. We got a great Dear John letter to get to. We'll be doing that later in the program. And if you want to send one for next week, you can still do that. All the details on our Facebook page. What percentage of Miss America winners gained weight during their year as Miss America?
I don't know.
100%, everyone. Here's the thing that's sad. It's sad to me that we need to know something like that. Who's keeping track of that? I mean,
if you think of how much they have to
all the stuff they got to do during that year.
Slim down before, because they've got to parade around in a swimming suit. So they're probably starve themselves for a full year, and then they have no choice but to
I don't think we needed to know that. Hey, Self.com found 60% of online participants would rather go to the dentist than go on a blind date. So your friend that you're trying to set up on a blind date, keep in mind, they'd rather have their teeth pulled. So 60% said that.
Not me.
Yeah, no kidding. Only about 11 months. In only 11 months, starting from when it is a tiny egg, a whale grows about 23 feet and puts on 15 tons, and then it's born. So that's in the womb of the mama whale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 15 tons. And finally, it's illegal to lock your car in Churchill, Manitoba, Canada. You know why?
Why?
Somebody may need to get in there to escape a polar bear. So it's illegal to lock your car.
Oh.
Kind of crazy, but it's true. Thanks for listening on a Thursday.
John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
Thought you'd never ask. It's Thursday, March the 9th. Today is Barbie Day.
I loved Barbies.
Yeah, when you were a kid, you don't have any now, though.
Oh, no, I don't have any now.
Get over it day today. So whatever it is, get over it. It's Joe Franklin Day today. It's Name Tag Day today. It's World Kidney Day today. And it's Panic Day today. Of all of those, I think it's probably going to celebrate Barbie Day, but I don't know how. But I might also tell a quick story about World Kidney Day.
Okay.
One time, because there's isn't it kidneys, the renal center that I went to?
Yes.
I was looking for a place called the rental center. I went into a place called the renal center. I was in the wrong place. I'm like, wow, this is such a nice place. And I'm talking to the lady. I'm asking him, I called about a carjack. She's like, I think you're in the wrong spot. I was like, what is this? The renal center. I'm like, oh, I looked at your sign too quick. I thought this was the rental center. Oh, good times.
John and Heidi.
Hey, it's John and Heidi. Join us for 80s in the Sand, a week-long 80s event this November 11th through the 18th in beautiful Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic.
Meet and listen to 80s bands like Loverboy, Starship, Howard Jones, and many more.
Plus, meet 80s icons from the movies like Anthony Michael Hall, Andrew McCarthy, and several others.
Get all the details at 80sinthesand.com.
Use promo code RADIO to get a $200 immediate refund per person.
Book your week-long 80s vacation now at 80sinthesand.com.
You know it's true because you heard it on the radio. Duct tape maybe shouldn't be used for everything, Heidi. Parents in Hudson, Massachusetts are suing A Place to Grow daycare for what they call a pattern of abuse put on their children. 3 families claim their infants were force-fed, were exposed to infectious diseases, spent nap times with blankets over their heads, and were duct taped to the walls.
What?
Yeah, at daycare. Not a
Why
good
on earth
daycare.
would they need to duct tape a baby to a wall?
I don't know. State investigators said the center's director had been talking about the versatility of duct tape and decided to find out if it really, quote, did work on everything.
Oh, my gosh.
So they were just saying,
I wonder how the parents found out.
I don't know, but I'm glad they did. That's not good. Hey, if you are entrusted to take care of somebody's child, now you got to understand, they're entrusting you with their most precious possession. More important to them than anything else in the world. Don't treat another person's child like that. Why would you do that? So they were being force-fed, exposed to diseases. I don't know what that means exactly. Spent nap times with blankets over their head and then duct taped to a wall. None of those sound good, but that last one just kind of seems like it took it way over the top. So makes no sense. So 3 different families had infants that were going through all that stuff.
Wow.
So again, I don't know. It doesn't tell me in the story how they found out, but thank goodness they found out, and that's no fun. That's happening again in Hudson, Massachusetts. And you know it's true because you heard it on the radio.
John and Heidi.
The John and Heidi Show is brought to you in part by the Keystone Treatment Center.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. We share silly stories here on the program, but addiction is no joke. If you or someone you know suffers with an addiction to drugs or alcohol, make today the day you seek help.
Call toll-free 844-204-1055.
That's a toll-free number. Again,
844-204-1055.
And this is your brain on drugs. Frank Jones' mother probably taught him not to talk with his mouth full. Ordinarily, that's good advice. But in this story, it's because his mouth was jammed full of marijuana.
Oh.
He got pulled over, was trying to figure out where he could hide his stash, and he stuffed it in his mouth. The officer walked up to the car, first noticed marijuana smoke billowing out of the car. Then he saw Frank's bulging cheeks and bits of marijuana scattered all over his shirt and his lap. Of course, he was busted without even saying a word. So there you go. Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. I remember when I was a kid. I'm not even kidding. This was seriously a friend of ours. I was like 8, and a family friend was telling me, if you ever get pulled over while drinking a beer, this was his advice. You pour the beer. He said, I have a hole drilled in the floor of my car so I can pour the beer out of that hole, and then stomp on the can and stick it in your sock. I'm like, I'm 8. I don't think I need to do that. I just remember sitting there. Seriously, this family friend telling me that. I'm like, nice. I don't think I need to do that.
Oh, man.
I don't even have a driver's license yet, and I don't even drink. Anyway, coming up, we have your moment of duh.
John and Heidi.
Now your moment of duh. When entering a flower show, it's a good idea, I don't know, to maybe have experience with flowers. And that's something that you might want to tell this individual today from New Zealand. Horticulture Society's Summer Flower Plant and Produce Show. In other words, it's a giant, big flower show. They knew this person actually won first prize with her plant. Judges knew that she had spent lots of tender loving care with her entity until they noticed a flower shop's price tag, which was still hanging on the bottom of the plant.
Oh, boy.
So this person had no clue what she was doing. She just went out before the show. She's like, oh, no, I already entered. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to just go buy one from the store.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. And if you're going to do that, remove the price tag. I mean... It's like she wanted to get caught. Who would do that? You know what would be really funny, though? To go to the store and get some price tags and put them on the competition's plants.
See?
Oh, I can't believe I just said that on the radio.
The Scoop of the Day is brought to you by Wells Blue Bunny. If you want delicious ice cream, be sure to look for the Blue Bunny. Sure to have your favorite flavors. Learn more at bluebunny.com.
Now your Scoop of the Day. Going to want to watch your language this week in Los Angeles. It's No Cussing Week. They have a week for that?
I don't know.
This wrapping up today, March 3rd through the 9th. The idea came from an anti-cussing McKay Hatch in 2009. The city passed the idea, been celebrating the week every year on this week ever since. There was a no cussing club at the South Pasadena High School, and they hope to get the whole state of California to be curse-free that week. Then they say, who knows, maybe it could be worldwide, no cussing week. McKay adds, with a week without bad language shows that you can live without those 4-letter words. So there you go. That's kind of cool that they you know, this is all started out at a school and they're trying to have it keep growing and growing. Maybe it'll make it this far. What do you think of that, Heidi? I gave you the opportunity and I thought for sure. I was hovering over the bleep button and I saw the smirk on her face. I'm going to move on. Spring is around the corner. Severe storms not far behind. In response, Weather Service officials are out with a list of items that we should all have in our disaster supply kit. They say you should have 3 days supply of water and food that won't spoil, a first aid kit, a battery-powered portable radio so you can hear what we're up to. Probably more so the people telling you the weather. I don't think they care what John and Heidi are saying.
Yeah, I don't think they care what we're up to.
Also, a list of emergency tools and cash and a flashlight and extra batteries and prescriptions if you have them. Make sure you have some of those in there. Anyway, cash was one that I never even thought of, but if, you know, your power's out and all that, and debit cards aren't going to be a whole lot of good. So there you go. Never really put a whole lot of thought into it, but that makes a ton of sense. Moving right along. Oh, man, I just clicked the wrong button. Here, I got to scroll up here. Chat amongst yourselves for a moment. Wow. Okay, here we go. I'm back now. Oklahoma City police are searching for a man accused of stealing 6 packages of bacon from a grocery store by stuffing them inside his shirt. So,
why would you steal bacon?
I don't know. because he wasn't bringing home any bacon.
Oh, my gosh.
A survey of drivers has released the best foods to eat while driving. Insure.com says their online survey of drivers found that motorists prefer foods, the most preferred foods behind the wheel were candy bars, followed by French fries, then potato chips, then chicken nuggets.
Okay.
Not on the list are soup. We saw somebody just the other day eating soup while driving, which I thought was a bad idea. They savor pizza and burgers, no longer frighten children, and many of them can walk the streets without people knowing they have someone else's cheekbones and nose and lips. People who've had face transplants are increasingly going public, helping to transform an operation that 6 years ago was a daredevil in theory and one day will be widely accepted. Now, face transplants, there have been at least 18 of them done around the world. So,
I think that's really cool for burn victims and that sort of thing, that they have those. I think that's phenomenal. But I wonder then, if you've gotten somebody else's face, do you look like that person?
I don't know.
Or does the skin just form to your facial shape and you look like yourself again?
I don't know. I'm confused at the beginning of that story. They savor pizza and burgers and no longer frighten children, and many of them walk the streets. What does the burgers and pizza have to do with anything?
Well, they're able to go out in public and eat now. They look like normal. I mean, because if your face is all burnt and you're all scarred up, people stare, and it's got to be awful.
Well, I was just very lost on that whole beginning of that story. And our final story, let's get on to this. Recent study reveals that almost 1/3 of American workers are too smart for their job. Not here. We're part of the minority. It says too many people study the arts in college rather than business and science, which is more in demand by employers. As a result, there's some art majors that end up in a lower level job for which they are far too educated. So there you go. Like I said, we don't have that kind of problem in these parts. We're not even qualified for this job. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to say anything about Heidi, but you know where I stand. You just heard me read a story a moment ago. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Thursday.
John and Heidi.
Radio advertising works. When it's done right, it works even better. There are many things you can do to get a better response, and shouting sale really isn't the best thing, believe it or not. Did you know that when you put words to music, they're 9 times more memorable? If you're trying to get people to remember your company, consider a jingle. We work with one of the very best jingle companies in the business, and we'd love to use music to help you grow your company. Learn more and hear examples at RadioReallyWorks.com. That's RadioReallyWorks.com. And it's time right now for our Dear John letters.
Dear John.
All right, got a great letter here for you today. Dear John and Heidi, after over 15 years of driving the first car my wife had ever bought, I talked her into getting something newer. Her only request was that she wait until her old one, which we call Susie, has 200,000 miles and was 20 years old. Well, Susie hit 200,000 miles in December and was 20 years old in January. She'd grown quite attached to Susie, but knew it was time to let her go. Before I had a chance to sell her, a coworker of my wife's offered to buy her for less than we could have gotten. My wife accepted, thinking that she was helping out a coworker that was maybe a little financially strapped. When he came to pick up Susie, he said he only had some of the purchase amount. My wife, in her kind heart, accepted that and some post-dated checks. She let him know that what he needed to do was make sure that you fill the car up. The gas gauge only goes down to a quarter of a tank, and it doesn't work below that. Well, he managed to run out of gas only 80 short miles later. In doing so, he fried the fuel pump. I went to his place to see what was wrong after he had it towed home, and the empty tank and horribly whining pump were a dead giveaway. Feeling badly, even though she'd done nothing wrong, she offered to hold the post-dated checks for a few weeks past their date so he could get her fixed. He still hasn't gotten a new pump, which I've offered to put in, but it gets worse. He keeps telling people at work, when he knows that my wife is within earshot, that he already needs to fix the lemon, and he hopes the fuel pump is all that's wrong with it, as he feels that it's a cursed lemon car.
Wow.
My wife is crushed that not only is he treating her baby like this, but that he's talking about her as if she ripped him off. My wife in public or at work is a soft-spoken, caring individual that is not about to stand up for herself, and this is really eating at her. At home, she's one of the most irritable, I won't say that word, you've ever met, but she won't unleash that on anybody except for her mom or myself. Signed, please advise. This is a tough spot because you could have sold the car and gotten more from a stranger. She did a kind thing by saying, I'll sell it to you and I'll take payments and I'll do that. You told the guy that, hey, the fuel thing doesn't work, so you got to make sure you fill it up, keep it above a quarter of a tank. He didn't listen. He did something wrong. You guys are not needing to, but you're even offering to put the fuel pump in. I think they've done everything they possibly could.
I think they've gone above and beyond, it sounds like to me.
I feel personally that you would be entitled to cash those checks because it sounds like they still haven't done that. And again, I would encourage him to get the fuel pump. If you'd like us to help replace it, we'll gladly help do that. But don't feel bad about it. And I think this person that did all this stuff should feel terrible because they got a really good opportunity and then they're being not so nice about it, which kind of makes me mad.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Business between friends or even just coworkers is never a good idea because it never ends well.
Well, it can,
As
but
they're finding out, it's just not a good idea. But in this particular situation, I believe that they've done everything they can possibly do to try to help remedy the situation. And it's unfortunate that the guy didn't fill up the tank like they told him to. Yeah. But
no, I'll tell you, I've done that before. I had a vehicle that was empty on gas, and I ran it completely empty, and I burned up the fuel.
Oh,
and
yes.
Then I also burned up a starter trying to...
I remember.
I put gas in it, and I kept trying to start it, and the fuel pump was already out. So,
and I learned restraint that day on how not to murder somebody.
She was so mad at me. I was so embarrassed because this vehicle died in the middle of an intersection. It was not good. Anyway, so I've been on that other side too. But here's the thing. I wasn't mad at the guy that sold it to me. You know who I was mad at? Me.
Yeah.
Because I was the idiot that ran out of gas. My
to
gas light had been on.
Yeah.
Even though my gas, the gauge worked, but you told him, keep it above a quarter of a tank. I wasn't upset with the people that sold me the vehicle.
No.
I didn't call them and demand, hey, I ran out of gas because my fuel light came on and I didn't get gas. It was my fault.
Right.
I took responsibility. I didn't blame anyone else. And I think that you have every right in the world to cash the checks. And I would still say, get the fuel pump and I'll gladly help put it in. But I don't know. It just said, please advise. There's my advice. Heidi, do you have any other advice?
I just feel really bad for his wife. If he's acting like that at work, I think that's childish and
Here's
immature.
the other thing. Give your wife a big old hug. Give her a little kiss and say, you know what? I'm sorry that your baby went to somebody that's not taking care of her. But it's not your car anymore. It's theirs. And you guys just move forward and be happy and cheerful. And I think it's all going to be fine.
Yep.
If you've got a Dear John letter you'd like to send for next week, you can send it to us through our Facebook page. All the details there at facebook.com/John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Many people go to college, but when they graduate, they've racked up a ton of debt. Not everyone, though. Matthew Einstone saved over $70,000 on a top-rate education. Then, after everyone wanted to know how he did it, he built a system to show you how to do it, too. Learn how you can use his system for yourself or for your kids. Go to freeeducationuniversity.com. Watch a few videos there for free. Sign up now and get a free 60-minute private consultation with Matthew. That's freeeducationuniversity.com. Use promo code Radio20 to save 20%.
John and Heidi.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
A giraffe can go longer without water than a camel can.
Really?
Yeah, because they must store a bunch of water in their big, long neck.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think that part's true, but the first part is. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Dunkin' Donuts shops in the Middle East sell donuts that are filled with figs.
Ew.
Yeah, well, that's apparently what they like there. So there you go. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
There are 5 million scent receptors located in human beings' nose. 5 million scent
Holy cow.
receptors. So we can smell a lot of different things. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Broccoli was first introduced into France during the royal marriage of Catherine de Medici to Henry II of France. So that's who we can blame. And I honestly like broccoli now. I never used to, but I had never tried it. Once I tried it, I was like, wow, this stuff is yummy. And finally, fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The toes of mummies are wrapped individually.
Oh, I
Never
didn't
knew
know
that. Yeah, they wrap the toes individually. So there you go. Thanks for listening to a couple of fun facts on a Thursday.
John
This is Richard Lustig, the world's first and only 7-time lottery game grand prize winner. Since I endorsed Lottolicious, I have won something every single draw. They do all the work. You don't have to worry about running to the store to buy your tickets. They take care of all that. So if you're looking for the best way to play the lottery, to give yourself the best chance of winning, go to RadioLottoPool.com and join today. Again, that website is RadioLottoPool.com.
John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Thursday. Good news and bad news about daylight savings time. By the way, that's coming up this weekend. Isn't it weird to think of that?
Yeah.
It's already time.
Seems like we just
Our
did it.
clock is going to be right in our car again for the first time in about 6 months or so. Anyway, this weekend, we move our clocks forward 1 hour. We spring forward. That's how you remember that. The good news is that we'll stay light 1 hour later in the evening. The bad news is we lose 1 hour of sleep. Not really. Recent reports saying that most of us don't get enough sleep anyway. This is only going to make things worse. However, there are some things you can do to avoid feeling drowsy. Experts say you can minimize the effects of the time change by going to bed and getting up a few minutes earlier every day this week and eating dinner an hour earlier. In many cases, be careful on your commute next week because there's going to be a lot of groggy drivers out there, or driving to church even this coming weekend, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that are, not as awake as they usually are at that time of the day.
Alrighty.
Are you a fan of daylight savings time, or are you not a fan?
I'm indifferent. It doesn't bother me at all either way.
There are people who say it should go away, and there are other people who say, hey, I like it the way it is, leave it alone. I, for one, honestly, I'm not going to take a firm stand on it either way, but this is the one that I like less, spring forward. Mm-hmm. I like fall back a lot more because we get that extra hour.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either way.
One of the things that I've done the last 8 years or so, I no longer sleep through that extra hour. Before, I used to do what everybody else did, just sleep in an extra hour. Hey, I got an extra hour to sleep. Now I get up early and I do something that day, something that I have been putting off for a long time, and it's usually something that's on my to-do list, but not someone else's. And I'll take that day because I have 25 hours that day, so I have that extra hour to do something extra, and it works out really good. But what I'm going to do this weekend, since I'm losing an hour, I'm going to just cross a bunch of stuff off that I'm not going to do anyway. I'm saying, yeah, crossing it off. Lost an hour, good excuse. I'm not going to do all that stuff Heidi told me to do. All right, coming up, McDonald's is in the news. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Hey, it's John and Heidi inviting you to join us for a party in paradise.
This is a week-long event with 80s music from over a dozen awesome bands.
And 80s movie and TV icons like Anthony Michael Hall, Andrew McCarthy, and several others.
Get all the details at 80sinthesand.com.
Use promo code RADIO to get a $200 immediate refund per person.
We'll even get together to have some drinks with you.
Book your week-long 80s vacation now at 80sinthesand.com.
That's 80sinthesand.com.
The people at the McDonald's PR place are sending stories out. Like every other day, we get another story about something that they're doing around the world. And this one is from Sweden. It's hard to imagine a fast food restaurant anywhere nowadays that doesn't have a drive-through window. But what about people that don't have cars, but they have snowmobiles? Yeah. Apparently, that's a big enough concern in Sweden at the McDonald's headquarters there. They said, we got to come up with a plan. Sweden has a drive-through for snowmobiles, complete with its own ramp and track. It opened up in Piteå, Sweden, about 80 miles south of the Arctic Circle. So
that's nice.
That's how they get around there. Is they don't drive cars because there's snow by the Arctic Circle. So they're like, hey, what about a drive-through for us? And I would say, hey, why don't you come in and warm up?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would just park it and go inside.
That's probably why they don't have that everywhere else. I'm just thinking out loud here, but who knows? Coming up, we've got an interesting story to share. That's on the way on the John and Heidi Show on a Thursday.
John and Heidi.
Clayton Lindsay was arrested for trying to buy a car with a stolen credit card. In order to fool the dealership, Lindsay, who is a 6'4", 190-pound man, was dressed as a woman. Suspicious, the dealership ran a credit check, discovered that the woman had been the victim of fraud, and that they should verify all information. Police said that when the woman was contacted, she said her purse containing her driver's license and her credit card had been stolen. Lindsay, who was also carrying a fake ID with the lady's name on it, but his picture as a man, was charged with forgery, attempted theft by deception, and identity theft. So, Yeah. That didn't work out so hot for him. So, again, tried to steal her, not only her
He couldn't
purse-
find a woman who wanted a new car that could have helped pose
I don't
with
know.
him.
I don't know.
That would have been a little easier to get away with.
Big strapping man. Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm here to get a car. So, I don't know. It didn't work out for him. That was in Philly.
John and Heidi.
Many people go to college, but when they graduate, they've racked up a ton of debt. Not everyone, though. Matthew Einstein saved over $70,000 on a top-rate education. Then, after everyone wanted to know how he did it, he built a system to show you how to do it too. Learn how you can use this system for yourself or for your kids. Go to freeeducationuniversity.com. Sign up now and get a free 60-minute private consultation with Matthew. That's freeeducationuniversity.com. Use promo code RADIO20 to save 20%.
John and Heidi.
All right, I love these kind of lists. Heidi usually says, not so much. But from All You magazine, they have, it says, if you're on a tight budget, here's some things you might not need to buy because you've already got stuff that'll do the trick. So they say wall filler. You don't need to get wall filler. According to them, white toothpaste will do the trick as long as your walls are white. So I don't know if that's a good idea, though. What do you think of that?
It doesn't firm up
They say
as
it does.
much as...
I don't know. According
Okay.
to scuff remover, they say to get rid of scuff marks, rub the inside of a banana peel over silverware, leather shoes, and leather furniture. Wipe with a soft cloth. Be sure to test a small inconspicuous section first. Wallpaper cleaner. Soft chunks of crustless white bread will get smudges off wallpaper and wipe away fingerprints and other grime. Drain cleaner. They say sprinkle a quarter cup of baking soda in the drain, followed by a cup of vinegar. Let it sit for 15 minutes, and then flush it with a pot of hot water. So there you go. A couple of tips. Blinds duster. So if you're trying to dust your blinds, an anti-static spray on blinds will keep the dust from piling up in the first place. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Antibacterial bathroom cleaner. They say to kill bathroom germs, spray full-strength vinegar around the sink and tub. Wipe clean with a damp cloth. Silver jewelry polish. They say use a soft toothbrush, scrub pieces of silver jewelry with a bit of toothpaste containing baking soda, and then rinse with warm water to restore the sparkle. And I said it kind of funny. It's baking soda, not bacon soda. 'Cause
Right.
Baking soda sounds delicious to me for some reason right now. Enamel repair paint. Use correction fluid like whiteout to cover nicks and chips on white enamel kitchen appliances like ranges and mixers and whatnot. Stainless steel polish. It says a staple in most garages. WD-40 works also on stains to take stainless steel and make it look new again. It says you put it on a cloth and shine it up and it looks good. Mirror cleaner. They're saying the white old-fashioned, not the gel variety, but the white shaving cream. You're supposed to use that and then wipe with a soft cloth, and your mirror will also be fog-free after showers done. And one last thing on here. They say grill degreaser. To clean that barbecue grill, sprinkle dry baking soda on a damp brush and scrub and rinse. So a couple of fun little tips right there. And we've got some good news on the way.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always try to wrap things up around here with some good news. And we had a story very similar to this just maybe 2 months ago. And this is another one that's just a really cool story here. A part of a Wisconsin preschool teacher will be with her student forever thanks to a transplant surgery that saved a 5-year-old girl's life.
Oh.
Preschool teacher Beth Batista and her student Lila Karen, 5, are both recovering at a Madison hospital after a successful kidney transplant. Batista said she had decided to become a living donor to the student at her school after hearing about Lila's year-long battle against a rare autoimmune disorder. I've got a link to the story online, facebook.com/John and Heidi Show. I think that's really cool.
That's fantastic.
And there was another one where it was like a middle school student, I think. And this was a 5-year-old here, so 2 different stories. But there's teachers out there that care enough about their students that they're saying, hey, I'll be the donor.
Yeah.
I can help. And we
People
had another
are
story.
amazing.
Had another story about school, like a resource officer that adopted a young man that was, quote unquote, unadoptable. So it's just really cool when you see that people really do care. There are some people out there that really do care. And if you're ever in a mood where you're just needing some good news and you're saying, hey, I need to cheer up, our Facebook page is riddled with that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we always have good news on there because I think there's enough gunk out there already. I mean, we have some dumb stories that we talk about on the radio every single day, but I'm like, you know what? On a Facebook page, let's populate that with positivity and see what happens. And so far, it's been pretty darn cool. Speaking of our Facebook page, we had a Dear John letter earlier in the program. We do that every Thursday. We've got room for one for next week. So if you'd like to contribute and have yours answered on the air next week, Facebook.com/John and Heidi Show. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great Thursday. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.